Hey, thanks for clicking on the video. Today we're taking a look at a premier Warlock build. It's an ad clear monster, leveraging the best pieces of our current sandbox and bringing one of my favorite exotics back from the dead. A build that from your enemy's POV should just look like this. This build slings debuffs and damage over time like it's nothing, clearing rooms without us even doing anything. And then of course, it's got that versatility to be used in boss encounters and activities like Ride of the Nine. And before we start, we've got timestamps down below for your convenience, alongside a dim link that will allow you to grab this build and just use it for yourself. And if you enjoy this video, a subscription would be greatly appreciated. Putting the YouTuber stuff aside though, let's dig into this build, starting with the exotic weapon. And that is Osteostriga, an absolute classic that still feels so good to use. Its main perk reads, fires a stream of sentient toxic projectiles that track the targeted enemy. And while that sounds cool, that just means it shoots slow tracking projectiles. The heavy lifter for this exotic is the other perk that reads, landing a final blow or multiple precision hits triggers a burst that poisons nearby targets. You can see that in-game against this group of ads, killing the middle guy causes this green explosion to spawn that then poisons everything near him. And then anything poisoned just begins to tick to death. There is no need for a precision kill or anything like that, just regular kills with the weapon. It is important to point out though that the poison does not spread, although that won't be the case for long. But of course, you don't always need to get a kill for this poison to activate. You can proc it off of multiple hits against the same target. The best way to do this is by hitting just a couple headshots, which upon doing so, the same explosion will spawn, poisoning that enemy that you just procced it off of, as well as anything nearby. This poison, as you can see, is also ramping up in damage over its lifetime, which causes just a few bullets from this SMG to deal a big chunk of Carl's health bar. And that is passive damage, so you could poison enemies and then swap over to something else and deal even more damage that way. Now, that's not the end of what this exotic can do, as it has a catalyst that reads, poison final blows return ammo to the magazine. You can see this occurring with, well, every poison kill. But one thing that this perk doesn't say is that it actually overflows our magazine too. You can see this after shooting into one group of ads, we can get a magazine size up to over 100. This catalyst straight up allows you to spray and pray, and the poison kills that you will be getting with this build means you barely ever have to reload. On its own, Osteostriga is fantastic. It does great damage, it has amazing ad clear, and the ease of use is way up there. But this becomes so much stronger when we pair it with our exotic, Necrotic Grips, or the spirit of it. Yes, you can take this build up a notch and use a prismatic class item, but we'll talk about adding a secondary perk later. For now, we're just working off the exotic Necrotic Grips. This has its perk that reads, damaging a target with melee poisons them, dealing increasing damage over time. Defeating a poisoned target spreads the condition. In-game showing this off, it's just as the description read. From our base melee, enemies get poisoned exactly like they did by Osteo. However, this time, that condition spreads. This means from one single punch, whole hordes of enemies get poisoned and eventually die. And of course, this also works off of our melee ability, which we're seeing here at Carl. This poison performs the same as Osteo's and ramps up in damage. Now, with Necrotic Grips in mind, we all know why we're using this exotic. With Necrotic Grips equipped, all kills on poisoned enemies will create that poison burst. So just one proc from our SMG means absolute tons of damage going out. This synergy alone is fantastic, and if you're a veteran of Destiny 2, you likely remember this combo. And while 3 years ago, many people would have just left it there, we can add so much more damage over time and make this build even better. And to do that, we need to look at our subclass, this time being on Prismatic. Starting with our super, we essentially always run Song of Flame. It's got insane survivability and good damage, plus it helps with our fragments. Our class ability is going to be Phoenix Dive for the shortest cooldown and a heal on demand. Our melee is very important. You saw it earlier, but it's going to be Arcane Needle. This melee has 3 charges, and then in game, we can see that when we hit Carl with it, he's poisoned and unraveled, with the poison ticks causing unravel ticks for pretty much triple damage. So that is a very good little synergy there. Then back in our subclass, our grenade is a Vortex Grenade, mainly for the light damage that it gives us, but you could swap this out for Cold Snap if you need more dark damage when we talk about Transcendence meters. Really, it's up to you. Now for our aspects, we have my favorite all-purpose combo, first being Hellion. This will spawn a Solar Soul whenever we use our class ability, and in game, we can see it dealing pretty good damage as well as causing an ignition against Carl after landing just 4 shots. The scorch that this guy applies is also another type of tick damage, so add that to the list. And then our second aspect is a must-have for Warlocks, being Feed the Void, so that we get Devour from any ability kills, including Hellion. And we can see that in game with us healing to full health on kills while also generating some grenade energy. This aspect is simply so broken, it almost turns any build into in-game material, and that's why we're running it. But now moving on to the fragments we have, there is one that needs a short showcase, and that is Facet of Solitude. It says that after scoring precision hits, it will release a Severing Blast. This Sever is a 40% debuff to the damage that enemies deal to us. What's so fantastic about this fragment is that it pops at the exact same time as Osteo's Poison Burst. It literally feels like they use the same code, and while severing enemies is a massive benefit to us, this also causes Osteo to be able to spawn tangles with no ability needed. Perfect for some exotic class item combos. As for our other fragments, Facet of Grace causes Osteo to build more Transcendence meter, which is very good. And Facet of Hope is used so we have higher uptime on our Phoenix Dive and Hellion. And after that, we run Facet of Purpose for survivability on Orb Pickup, Restoration for us thanks to Song of Flame, and then Facet of Protection for some free damage resist when near enemies. Using these 2 exotics and subclass that I just showed you, you can honestly take and go crazy. You got tons of taking damage, insane survivability, some awesome synergy between our abilities and our exotics. It's just good. Honestly, good enough to be done there. But we still want to optimize this with our other weapons, armor, and artifact. For the other weapons, it's simply run something to deal with high health enemies. I chose to run a fusion rifle like Zealot's Reward as my special weapon for when an enemy like a champion comes by and I don't want to just rely on damage over time to deal with them. For our heavy, we definitely want something geared towards boss damage like a Chill Inhibitor GL or Hezen Vengeance. Really, you just don't want to waste your time plinking away at a boss. Then for our armor, we first want to mention the exotic class item that I was talking about way earlier in the video. Since Spirit of Necrotic is in slot 1, you can use pretty much anything in slot 2, and this build is going to work exactly the same, plus whatever benefit you choose. But my main choice is Spirit of the Swarm, so that tangles create threadlings. I showed it earlier, but with our fragments synergizing so well, Osteo creates tangles, and then destroying those gives us threadlings, which is more dark damage and ad clear. It just feels fantastic. However, there's a quick disclaimer. Spirit of Necrotic does have less total damage per poison application. This is because the numbers no longer ramp up over time if the poison is from a melee or a burst from a kill. Osteo's poison still ramps up though, but either the normal exotic or the class item works perfectly fine in this build. And for armor stats, we want resilience, strength, and recovery in that order. And then our mods are as follows. On the helmet, we run a kinetic siphon and a heavy ammo finder plus scout. Osteo as an exotic primary should make lots of ammo for us. Arms is a heavy-handed for orbs from melee kills and a momentum transfer, so grenade damage refunds some melee energy. Chest is for resist mods dependent on the activity, and then legs is a recuperation to get instant health from orbs, and invigoration for some melee energy on orbs. And then the class item is a special finisher, powerful attraction to pick up orbs with our dive, and a proximity ward for the huge overshield we get when doing finishers. And then lastly, before the gameplay loop, we have a bit in the artifact that helps. But do know that this build is future-proofed, and you don't need any of the current artifacts to see success. First up is Vile Weave, so our tangles sever enemies, as well as decreasing the tangle cooldown. Then we have Horde Shuttle, so whenever we deal damage to unraveled enemies, threadlings are constantly popping off of them. And the last one is 2 Shreds, so sustained damage against severed enemies makes them unraveled, which Osteo and Tangles make enemies severed. And then when we kill those severed enemies, they create Woven Mail granting AoEs. So we can see that full combo in game as just unloading into Carl with Osteo. He gets poisoned, severed, unraveled, and then starts spawning threadlings. And then when killing severed enemies, as an example with a Tangle, they leave this orb that gives us Woven Mail for a free 40% DR. But now to cap us off, we have the gameplay loop. Begin by either meleeing something or shooting Osteo. You'll immediately poison that target, and once it's defeated, that poison condition is going to spread thanks to Necrotic. If you're in high level gameplay, you're likely to proc our fragments and artifact perks, which will sever and unravel enemies, but you can also just use a melee to do that. At this point, there should be green all over the screen already, with poison and unraveled ticks everywhere. Make sure to activate Hellion so there's even more tick damage, and use your grenade to build light transcendence energy and kill ads. Really, just use Osteo to apply poison and then try to spam abilities where possible. And of course, Tangles Destroyed means more damage and threadlings if you're using my class item. After the absolute storm of damage numbers, you should have Transcendence, which should be popped for even more ability uptime. Melees are the best way to spread poison and unravel, so use them when you can. Rely on Devour, and if you're ever in a pinch, pop Song of Flame for instant survivability and a reset on all of your ability cooldowns. This build primarily excels at ad clear, so remember not to try and force it on bosses and such. A poison proc on a boss is fine, but use your special on heavy to deal with particularly large health bars. Of course, that doesn't mean any champion that's unlucky enough to walk into your storm of damage over time isn't going to just fall over once stunned. But that's it. This build has been so fun to use, and I'm very happy to be running Osteostrega again. Remember, the dim link is down below, and I would like to say I appreciate you getting it this far into the video. Your viewership is greatly appreciated. Thank you guys for 16,000 subscribers. If you want to support me, support the channel, a like, a comment, a subscription, joining the Discord goes a very long way. If you want to support me and support the channel, but you can't think of a comment down below, Contagion. And with that, as usual, I hope you are having a great day, and I hope to see you around.